Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well, and welcome to, depending on however you choose to look at your clock or wherever you may live, an early morning, middle of the night bonus upload. Before we jump into it, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman, Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It doesn't cost a cent. Click the like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all of these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. And yes, folks, they definitely matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to this early morning or middle of the night bonus upload, shall we? Okay, so on Saturday Nightmares, live from New York, we talked a little bit about a location that is notorious for cryptid activity, Bigfoot, Dogman, UFO activity, and numerous missing people. It is 30 minutes from my home. I've been there countless times, hiking that area, exploring certain areas in the surrounding area. It's just a beautiful place. It's called the Bennington Triangle. I remember the first time I ever was in the vicinity of the Bennington Triangle, I was at the Bennington Memorial. And it is pretty much right in the kind of start of the Bennington Triangle, right at one of the angled sections, I guess. But I also have been hiking in the Green Mountains in the middle of the area as well. It is notorious for UFO activity, for Bigfoot, Dogman. But the biggest thing is the disappearances. I have got an amazing Dogman experience from the Bennington Triangle, and 2 young women that were attacked. And so to familiarize you with the Bennington Triangle, before we get into it, it was a phrase coined by an American author named Joseph Citro to denote an area of southwestern Vermont within which numerous people disappeared between 45 and 1950. It is centered in Glastonbury Mountain, Bennington, Woodford, Shaftesbury, and Somerset. Now, there has been numerous disappearances. Mitty Rivers, 1945, Paula Weldon, 1946, James Tedford, 1949, Paul Jepson, 1950, Frida Langer, 1950, and there's some other real strange ones. The James Tedford one is probably the strangest, and I will discuss that a little bit in this upload. But there has been so many strange experiences that have happened. There's a Bigfoot-like creature that roams those woods called the Bennington monster. And I don't believe it is a Bigfoot at all. I think it's a Dogman for what these two young women experienced and numerous experiences that I've had from subscribers in the area. So let's get into this absolutely terrifying upload. The Bermuda Triangle is very well known, but not quite so well known as the Bennington Triangle, the name given to a mysterious area in southwestern Vermont by author Joe Citro, describing an area in which a number of people went missing between 1920 and 1950. Primarily known for the Battle of Bennington, the region is rich in historical events back to the 1700s. Bennington is a fertile ground for ghostly events, folklore, and supernatural occurrences. The region is often referred to as the Bennington Triangle due to the many odd, unexplained happenings within the surroundings. Buildings and nearby mountains. Native Americans consider Glastonbury Mountain cursed and used it strictly for burying their dead. Locals believe that Native Americans regarded Glastonbury as cursed and avoided it, as well as tales of hairy wild men and other strange beasts in the woods. They believe the land is cursed because all four winds met in that spot. There's also mention in Native American folklore of an enchanted stone in which it's said to swallow anything that steps on it. Over the years, there have been between 30 to 40 unexplained disappearances on that mountain. It is known for certain that at least 5 people from that area went missing, some of them on Glassberry Mountain itself between 1945 and 50. These include 74-year-old Mitty Rivers, 68-year-old James Tedford, 8-year-old Paul Jepson, 18-year-old Paula Weldon, and 53-year-old Frida Langer. Of these remains, of only one was found, that of Frida Langer. Most reports on the subject view the circumstances as mysterious, as her body turned up in some tall grass in an area that had been searched extensively a number of times in the 7 months between her disappearance and the discovery of her corpse in the area that had been searched, making it unlikely that the search teams had simply missed her. There were many strange circumstances surrounding these disappearances. These are just a few examples of people who have come up missing in the area. Because of the wide range of age and gender of the missing people, the thought that possibly a serial killer was involved is highly unlikely. This, combined with the lack of any evidence to offer support for a more logical explanation, has led many to speculate on the possibility of paranormal causes, including abduction by UFO, cross-dimensional wormholes, or the attack by the Bennington monster. The trail stops partially up the mountain, suggesting that no one goes up there. When you walk into the woodlands of Glastonbury Mountain, you don't hear anything living. It's as though even the animals don't dare venture there. Mitty Rivers, 1945. Between 45 and 55 people disappeared in the Bennington area. The first occurred on November 12, 1945, when 74-year-old Mitty Rivers disappeared while hunting. Rivers was guiding a group of 4 hunters up the mountain. On the way back, Rivers got ahead of the group and was never seen again. An extensive search was conducted, but the only evidence discovered was a single rifle cartridge that was found by the stream. The speculation was that Rivers had leaned over and the cartridge had dropped out of his pocket into the water. The disappearance occurred in the Long Trail Road area of Vermont Route 9. Rivers was an experienced hunter and fisherman, and was familiar with the local area. Then, a little over a year, Paula Weldon, 18, disappeared on December 1st of 1946. Weldon was a sophomore at Bennington. She had set out for a hike on the long trail. Many saw her go, including Ernest Whitman, on the Bennington Banner employee who gave her directions. She was alleged to have been seen on the trail itself by an elderly couple who were about 100 yards behind her. According to them, she turned a corner of the trail, and when they reached the same corner, she had disappeared. An extensive search was conducted when Weldon did not return to the campus, which included the posting of a $5,000 reward to help the FBI. However, no evidence of her was ever found. Also, she was not wearing a jacket and considered that 50 degrees outside and then later dropped to 9 degrees at night makes it even more of a mystery. Unconfirmed rumors speculated that she had moved to Canada with a boyfriend, or that she became reclusive and lives in the mountains. Weldon's disappearance was the inspiration for a 1951 novel, Hangsman, by Shirley Jackson. James Tedford, 1949. James Tedford, a veteran, was the third person to disappear and went missing December 1st, 1949, exactly 3 years after Paula Weldon had disappeared. Tedford was a resident of the Bennington Soldiers' Home. He had been in St. Albans visiting relatives and was returning home on a local bus when he vanished. According to witness, Tedford got on the bus and was still on the bus at the last stop before arriving in Bennington. Somewhere between the last stop and Bennington, Tedford vanished. His belongings were still in the luggage rack, and an open bus timetable was on his vacant seat. Paul Jepson, 1950. The fourth person to vanish was 8-year-old Paul Jepson on October 12, 1950. Jepson had accompanied his mother in a truck. She left her son unattended while she fed some pigs. Her mother was gone about an hour. When she returned, her son was nowhere in sight. Search parties were formed to look for the boy. Nothing was ever found, though Jepson was wearing a bright red jacket that should have made him stick out. According to one story, bloodhounds tracked the boy to a local highway where, according to legend, 4 years earlier, Paula Weldon had disappeared. Frida Langer, 1950. The fifth and last disappearance occurred 16 days after Jepson vanished on October 28, 1950. Frida Langer, 53, and her cousin, Herbert Elsner, left the family campsite near the Somerset Reservoir to go on a hike. During the hike, Langer slipped and fell into the stream. She told Elsner if he would wait, she would go back to the campsite, change the clothes, catch up to him. When she didn't return, Elsner made his way back to the campsite and discovered Langer had not returned, and that nobody had seen her since she had left. Over the next 2 weeks, 5 searches were conducted involving aircraft, helicopters, and up to 300 searchers. No trace of Langer was found during the search. On May 12, 1951, her body was found near Somerset Reservoir in an area that had been extensively searched 7 months previously. No cause of death could be determined because of the condition of the remains. Langer was the last person to disappear, and the only one whose body was ever found. No direct connections have been identified that tie these cases together, other than the general geographic area and time period. So these disappearances are very interesting because they all fall around the same time of year, when it's very, very cold out. And let me tell you, it gets really cold out up here. Even in early October. Kids bundle up on Halloween. You see a lot of kids that, are arguing with their parents about putting their jacket on Halloween because they don't want to ruin their costume. But it's a thing, Yeah, we have Indian summers, but nothing to the extent where, it's 80 degrees for longer than half a day. But what's funny to me is that the body of Frida Langer was discovered. And just like in a lot of those David Paulides 411s, the body pops up when it wasn't even there, which is very strange. This little section of land had probably been walked on, a couple hundred times prior to them finding her remains. It's truly a mystery. So now the Bennington Triangle was named by a paranormal author from Vermont named Joe Citro. The area of southwestern Vermont, which as many as 10 individuals had disappeared between the 20s and 50s, needed a name. This mysterious triangle centers around Glastonbury Mountain, includes the towns of Bennington, Woodford, Shaftesbury, Somerset. Glastonbury and Somerset were both once thriving logging and industrial spots, but they started declining toward the late 19th century. Now they are ghost towns, unincorporated by the state legislate in 1937. Well, there's been disappearances in that area, the most famous of which would be the Paula Whedon, who disappeared in 1946. But we just talked about 4 other ones that are very famous around here as well. The Weldon one, was for some reason shot, around the country. Everybody knew about it back then, and but the locals all know about the disappearances and what goes on up there, and it's definitely a creepy place. So anyway, sorry, moving on. Now, these strings of disappearances are far from the only unexplained events that have happened in or around the Bennington Triangle, but considering the mystery behind them, many people have speculated wildly about the possibility of evil or even paranormal forces at work. This idea is only reinforced by alleged UFO and Bigfoot sightings in the region. Others believe that the 5 missing people between 45 and 50 could be the work of a serial killer. But the problem with these theories is the sheer lack of evidence to bring them up. And according to the serial killer theory, not only is there no evidence, but there's also the age and gender factor. The ages of those 5 people range dramatically, defying the usual patterns of serial killers. Now, some known similarities offer the suggestion that these people met their demise at the claws and jaws of the indigenous mountain cat, like a lynx, bobcat, or catamount. But the problem with that theory is that bobcats and lynx are not known to be aggressive towards hunters. As for the catamount, one hasn't been credibly sighted before or since the 40s, and has been declared extinct. The only known similarities between the cases in the Bennington Triangle are the close proximity between them. The time of day they were last seen, between 3 and 4 p.m., and the time of year, which was generally the last 3 months of the year. Now, interestingly enough, a lot of you know this, but the old-timers used to call mountain lions catamounts,
in the southern part of the states, yeah, as well as up here. I've heard it used. But then people also use the word when they describe a large mountain lion. But yes, there is a dog-headed creature reported lurking up here, and Sasquatch reported to lurk around this area as well. So it's definitely a creepy area. Now, we'll kind of back away from the disappearances and talk a little bit more about the paranormal aspect of the mountain, which involves cryptid, UFO, black magic, ghosts. So, while most simply brush this off as a myth, there is some truth behind this. The wind pattern on Glastonbury Mountain is so erratic that the weather changes suddenly and plants tend to grow at odd angles. Another myth attributed to the natives of Vermont is the belief in the enchanted stone on the top of the mountain that can swallow a person whole. The town of Glastonbury was slated to be a ghost town since the first day. In 1761, a man named Bennington Wentworth drew the boundaries of a new town on the map without even having stepped foot there. The land in the area was tough, and the growing season was short, so settling there was quite an uphill battle, all the way to the 1800s. Technically, there were two towns, Fayetteville and South Glastonbury. But those towns were never connected thanks to the impossible incline between them. Glastonbury was initially established as a logging and mining town. Workers were brought up for log and mine coal. The uphill battle to settle there was meant quite literally, as the workers were sent in by railroad that climbed 9 miles at a ridiculous 250 foot per minute. In 1894, a final attempt was made to revive the town of Glastonbury by turning it into a tourist spot. Now the simple buildings were turned into hotels and casinos. The railroad was fitted with fashionable trolley cars. But due to the extreme logging, the mountainside was left unprotected from soil erosion. In 1897, a large flood destroyed the railway into Glastonbury. After that, no more effort was put into reinventing the town. Residents left the area to start over somewhere else, leaving the town with a rapidly declining population. By 1930, the 3-member Madison family were the last ones to live in town. By 1937, Glastonbury was officially unincorporated. As of 2010 census, 8 people lived there. The conversion to a tourist town was tough for the loggers and miners of Glastonbury and Fayetteville. In 1892, a sawmill worker by the name of Henry McDowell got drunk and killed a coworker with a rock after he heard voices telling him to attack a man. He was sent to an insane asylum but managed to escape only to disappear. 5 years after the murder, another one followed. John Harbour, a prominent Woodford citizen, went into Bickford Hollow just south of Glastonbury to hunt. He was shot by an unknown person, and when his body was found, he had his fully loaded gun next to him, and it seemed to have been dragged several yards. This murder went unsolved. Even before colonial settlements, there were reports of strange lights in the sky, odd odors on the mountain, and sounds with no explanation. These reports, together with the strange disappearances, led to wild theories of UFOs or vortexes. But regardless of why and how they happened, the strangest report might just be the Bennington monster. The first sighting of the wild creature was reportedly in the 19th century, when it rushed a stagecoach on the side road. Later, in 1967, the so-called wild man of Glastonbury lived in a cave of Somerset. Reports held that he would go into Glastonbury and other areas of Bennington to harass women. He wore a ratty coat, and he would open it up to reveal his nude body while waving around a gun. In all the research done to answer the vexing questions of the Bennington Triangle, there have been the least some practical answers. These explanations make sense, even if they aren't as satisfying. One such reason is hypothermia, since the temperatures on the mountain can drop drastically, and the disappearances all happen in the winter. Hypothermia is a likely explanation. When people experience hypothermia, they might engage in what's called terminal burrowing, a survival behavior that drives people to find small and remote places to huddle. It takes them out of the wind and into enough warmth to slow the process of freezing to death. But it typically kicks in too late and makes it harder for a person to be found. Another explanation for these mysteries has something to do with the history of the mining town. The mountainside is littered with unmarked mine shafts, which for unfortunate hikers means whoever goes off the trail can plummet to their death. One more complicated factor in the whole ordeal is the odd wind pattern on the mountain that the Native Americans spoke of. Glastonbury Mountain has no consistent wind pattern. And yes, plants do grow in strange ways. Many recent hikers have had a hard time navigating the mountain for this reason. Well, some of these explanations can help explain why the missing people were never found. There are still unanswered questions, like if they died from hypothermia or a fall. Why was Frida Langer moved back into the open field months later? And why did Paul Jeffson's trail end at the highway? Maybe the most realistic answer is that not all 5 of those missing people died in the same way. Maybe some met a killer while others fell. But even if that's the case, why? Did these disappearances span only 5 years and then suddenly stop? People have heard the rumors over the years, and it sparked some curiosity. Some adventurers and brave people set to explore the infamous Long Trail. One such hiker is Chad Abramvich from the website Obscure Vermont. He went on a mission to report on a trip taken to the mountain. Myself and a few friends departed from his pickup and drove up the bumpy forest road into the strange clearing in the middle of the hills. Abramvich continued to write about how, in the summer humidity of July, they found old cellar holes, almost entirely hidden by tall grass. Beneath the shade of the gnarled apple trees, shortly after that, the group suddenly experienced a drastic change in weather. It was sunny when they started, but then the normal thunderstorm came into play. The group was stranded for a while, but finally managed to make its way back to flat land. While they escaped the rain, they found that the surrounding area was totally dry. Strangely enough, locals later confirmed that no thunderstorm had even passed through the area. Yeah, it's strange, but there are more modern reports. In 2008, Robert Singley, a music composition teacher at Bennington College and experienced hiker, got lost on that mountain. He took the trail that Singley knew well and used the same trail to head back, but this well-known trail did not end up leading him to where it should have. According to Singley himself, he walked 5 miles before realizing that he should have already reached his car. At that point, a heavy fog rolled in, and the trail became hopelessly dark. He went to a maple tree and tried to start a fire, but every stick he reached for was an animal bone. He finally managed to light a fire, and he sat, huddled by the fire. Through the night, in the morning, he saw that he was on the other side of the ridge from his car. Luckily, he made it out and lived to tell his tale. Dedicated hikers like to seek out challenging trails, and the long trail spans 273 miles through Vermont, ending just at the edge of Canada. The trail definitely lives up to its name. It can take from 2 to 4 weeks to complete a trek. Practically called through hiking, hikers that go on through hikes tend to pick up their time of year carefully to avoid the snow of the winter and the mudslides of the summer. But one thing that most hikers don't know about the Bennington Triangle, the Green Mountain Club finished expanding the Long Trail in 1930, and the club still maintains the trail and guides those who aim to through hike there. Many guides exist, and advice is abundant. They tell people what to bring with them and what not, but no one mentions any murders, monsters, or UFOs. While Glastonbury is a ghost town and basically an area in Vermont wilderness, it's anything but deserted. Tons of outdoor enthusiasts, history buffs, hunters, hikers, snowmobilers, college students, and paranormal investigators flock there to experience the undisturbed wilderness. And part of the adventure is trekking up the forest roads, hiking the trails and waterways. Today, there are about 8 people who choose to live in this strange part of Vermont. There are no other towns quite like Glastonbury. With this one winding dirt road, privacy is a word to describe the area. Chateau Fayville, the last original house in Glastonbury, and the former home of the Madison family, was put on the market. I almost thought I did not have the encounter somewhere in my studio, but I found it, and I'm so happy. So this is one of the accounts of the Dogman of the Bennington Triangle area. A friend from Albany was dropped off, so they planned a road trip, bringing her home, and stopped at the Green Mountain National Park for a picnic in the afternoon. It was 75, 80 degrees out. Big branch overlook, southern part of the park, great view of the mountains. Very quiet, not a lot of people. They hiked about a half a mile to a picnic spot to have lunch and find a better spot to take some pics. They were both photographers. 200 feet from the picnic area. Quiet, nothing, no nature sound. Minutes later, popping sounds and an unnatural shriek. The brush and branches started rustling to the left. The sound became more distant. Moments later, they saw a wild turkey that was running down the ridge with a bent neck and backwards wing. The neck seemed to be broken. It just disappeared down the hill. Thinking a bear or a mountain lion was nearby, they decided it was time to leave. One of the girls keeps the pepper spray with her, but doesn't feel safe enough to stay. They turn the corner. It leads back to the picnic spot. Something huge was crouched down with its back to them, bobbling its head. She told her friend to start walking away, but backwards so we could see this thing. 100 feet from it, must have caught the scent of the girls or heard them, because it stood up. It was tall, muscular, inverted knees, black matted fur with the head of a German shepherd, huge jaws and amber-colored eyes. It was terrifying. I thought it was a werewolf from a movie, standing in fear. It was growling at us. I think it either run or get torn up. I grabbed my friend and we ran toward the cliffs and start making our way down. I keep thinking it's in the woods and stalking us, so we start down the rocky cliff like hill back to the car about a half a mile away. They're terrified. They run to the trailhead, looking behind them. Nothing, but their imagination is going crazy. Just stay focused. They get to the car and thank God that she didn't leave her keys in the bag that were up on the bluff there where they had left their cameras. They start the car, they start to collect themselves, and that's when they remember the half-eaten sandwich on the blanket. If they had finished it, they very well might have died, because that's what that creature was eating when they first saw this thing. Her blood ran cold. They lost some stuff, but they're alive. We are alive because it let us live. We didn't contact Park Service. We did contact Park Service and made a report, but heard nothing back. We still have nightmares about it, and went to a therapist, told a few people, but they doubt them. Friend didn't handle it well either. She doesn't go around large dogs or the woods. She does not watch scary movies. And yes, these things are real. Those are notes that I had from the interview that I took, a phone interview with one of the girls. I cannot find the printed out version of it. That was just the notes, and then I rewrote it so it wasn't like scattered so much, but it was exactly as she said it was. And yeah, I mean, they're going looking for a place to take some pictures, they're picnicking, yada yada yada, it's a beautiful day. Boom, this thing's eating the sandwich. And she honestly felt like if she had finished her sandwich, that this thing would have killed both of them. That's a very scary thought. I mean, a sandwich saved your life. Half a sandwich at that.
Just an absolutely terrifying experience to end the Bennington Triangle information. But, the Native Americans would only enter the Glastonbury Mountains unless they were burying their dead. They would not step foot in those woods because they believed that the mountain was cursed land because of the four winds they met there in an internal struggle. And it's true, the wind pattern there, it changes like that in just a heartbeat, a millisecond, on top of the ghost town that was there, and the strange lights, this 6-foot to 7-foot monster that had been seen the first time was 19th century, when the creature smashed into a stagecoach. And crazy enough, you've got a gentleman that was dragged through the woods back in the day, 1892, dragged several yards. And what is insane about this is you've got UFO sightings, just the amount of supernatural experiences that at one point the Vermont government said, maybe we got a serial killer. Yeah, you got a supernatural serial killer that's probably lived in that area, if you're going to judge by the amount of strangeness that has happened there since Vermont statehood up until now. Go figure, right? But you've got to think. I believe Revolutionary War fought in that area, the French and Indian War. What about the Prince or the King Philip's War? One of the bloodiest battles per capita happened in Rhode Island, Massachusetts, but you really don't think any of that spilled up over just north of that area? I do. I truly do. The Native Americans were always warring with each other. And, it's not just the Navajo that have black magic shamans. The Mohawk, the Algonquin, the Huron, they all do too. It's pretty intense place. I know when I remember the first time I had ever been up there, it was with an old girlfriend. I was probably, 18 years old. Before I even knew, no, I was 20. It was before I even knew anything about the Bennington Triangle. I found out later that day because I'll tell you why. So we got out, we were at the memorial, and it was a cloudy day, it was fall, and I was like, wow. I'm like, it feels really weird here, doesn't it? And I remember saying that to my girlfriend at the time, and she said, yeah, it does, now that you mention it. And we ended up driving over to Manchester, which is probably 40 minutes from Bennington, maybe. Probably even less than that. But, Manchester has got a bunch of outlets and bookstores and restaurants and stuff. So we went there to get dinner, and I wanted to check out this bookstore that they have there. And it's a great old-fashioned kind of bookstore. And I remember buying, and I still own the book to this day, a book on the history of the Bennington Triangle and its supernatural experiences that have happened there. It's just not a good place, and it doesn't give off the best feeling vibes either. So, and if you ever look at the Bennington Triangle and how the triangle is shaped and how there's a couple different ways of them making the triangle. One, the bottom angle is kind of set into New York a little bit, and goes pretty much over to Pulteney, or Putney, Vermont, maybe Keene, but past Brattleboro, and then goes north up into the other, solid point, the main diamond part there. But at the tip of the Green Mountain National Forest, where that top part of the triangle would be, there's an unincorporated community in Addison County called Satan's Kingdom. Does that have anything to do with the strangeness? No one knows. I don't even know why it's even called that. It's a real strange area. Vermont is a strange state. Beautiful, but strange, just like the Adirondacks. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is, after all, your support that keeps the channel growing and going, and what gives folks like us a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Just simply treated with the respect we all deserve. Everyone, please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real. They are out there and dangerous. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. And until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless.